and tickled pink to have Berna Dean Steptoe, the former producer of Inside Texas Politics. And I always called myself her troublemaker on My Voice, My Opinion. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for inviting me. And I must say that I enjoyed you on My Voice, My Opinion, because you always came with a topic that most people were talking about, but not all people were talking about.
Yes.
So you sort of introduced that subject, that topic,
Yes.
to the Inside Texas Politics audience, and I was always happy to have.
Thank you. Well, as everyone knows, that city politics is something that I'm very passionate about. Try to bring a lot of awareness of things that are going on, especially with Save Dallas City Hall and the efforts. So make sure, if you can, just a plug, sign up to speak next week, since it's going to be voted on getting rid of the current City Hall location. But anyway, we're talking about the March primary that is here. Finally, Tuesday is the last day to vote. That is the official election day. So do remember, if you didn't vote during early voting, you must vote at your precinct location. So some of the precincts have been collapsed because there's not as many voting locations available. So make sure you look this information up. You can look it up at Dallas County Elections to see where you need to vote. Okay, so it's a lot of craziness for the primaries.
A lot of craziness, but one thing about this craziness, it is generating a lot of interest.
Yes.
In Dallas County, actually the state of Texas, but in Dallas County, as of yesterday, last day of voting, you had almost 1 million people who had voted.
Yay! Now,
well, no, I'm not Dallas County. I'm sorry, that's Texas. In Dallas County, over 200, about 200,000. Okay. Yeah, which is a lot.
Yes.
I'm so glad I corrected that, because not in Dallas County, but in Dallas County, you had almost 200,000.
That is amazing, and I do want to point out that in Texas, you do have to choose the party that you want to vote for, and then you make your selections based on who is running for that party. And some seats, are being challenged heavy. I will say in Dallas County, just about almost all the judges have challengers for the Democrats. We are not really going to get into those because, the state has quite a few races that are generating a lot of interest. So we're going to, of course, save the best for last. All the drama for last. So I do want to talk about Comptroller here. So a lot of y'all, one of the big things and what I'm passionate about with Coffee and Politics Online is helping you understand what these positions do. So Comptroller really looks at the tax revenue that's being brought into the state and help to estimate what that money is going to be available for with the upcoming budget. And knowing that we are still very, very much, red at the state level, we do have one Democrat that is running for this seat, Sarah Eckhart. And she was the Texas state senator in Travis County. She's a former county judge. And she's most notably known for going toe-to-toe with Dan Patrick, with him pulpitting or proselytizing religion into our state legislative process and laws. So one thing that she is running for is to, which all of them, both parties, running to eliminate corruption and fraud with the Comptroller's office. But she wants to stand on running to build trust back in that office and running it with integrity. So I guess she's saying that the Republicans don't have integrity. So that's quite interesting. Did you find out any details about her?
Well, I've known of her for a while because she has been in the Senate.
Yes.
And she's been elected, as well as Inside Texas Politics, we would have her on for certain. So, yes, but aren't there more candidates in that race?
I did not find any more candidates. Ballotpedia only had her listed.
Really?
Yeah.
Well. Anyway, she's she's a longtime representative, and she has always had the interest of regular people.
And we need more of that. Because the commoners.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Interesting is the Republican side of that comptroller.
Yes, it is.
That's where, you know what, I find it so interesting because in most of these races, you have the Republicans are just beating up on each other.
Yes.
And this particular race is very interesting because Governor Abbott has a lot of interest in it, because keep in mind, the comptroller's position will manage these the education part and the vouchers that he put a lot of political capital on in order to pass.
Yes.
So he actually appointed Hancock.
Yes, Kelly Hancock.
Kelly Hancock
is the current serving interim comptroller, just so you know.
And he has endorsed it, but the interesting part is President Trump has endorsed her.
Yes. So let's talk about, because there are three candidates for comptroller on the Republican side. There's Christy Craddock. She is a former railroad commissioner. She wants to decrease government spending. She wants to inspect those contracts to make sure there's not any hanky-panky going on. And she wants to scrutinize local governments in case they want to increase the tax revenue that's coming in, so property taxes, and look at their budgets and what they're spending their money on. And again, Kelly Hancock, he's the acting comptroller. He was in the Senate before on the Senate Business and Commerce Committee. He's most notably known for getting rid of DEI when it comes to the business contracts program for minorities. Wants that just for veterans. And one thing which is very interesting, that Abbott would put him in this position because he stood on not being in favor of having private schools being subsidized by being available to receive the vouchers.
I understand that, but he is such a long time friend. So they've known each other for a long time, and Abbott is very well known to surround himself with friends or people he can trust.
Okay.
And he can trust Hancock.
Okay, all right.
Or he thinks he can.
And also, notably, he was in favor of convicting Ken Paxton.
And you know what? And it is interesting because I remember when the trial was over.
Yes.
And we interviewed Hancock, and he had no regret about that vote. He had no regret. So very interesting, but that is a very interesting race to watch as far as political interested people, because I know that a lot of the interest is really on other races, but that's a very interesting
comptroller. Yes, yes. People need to pay attention. This is kind of like one of those, I call it a sleeper positions that people would just kind of glaze over, and if they recognize the name, they'll just go ahead and vote for that person, not really understanding the roles.
It controls the money.
It controls the money. So you want to make sure that we're putting somebody there that understands how to make sure that our money is being spent in areas that we, the people, the commoners, need and want it being spent on. But the Honorable Don Huffines, you may remember him being a state senator. He's run for other positions. I had him on in the early days of Coffee and Politics. He was part of dismantling and leading the charge of Dallas County schools. I know his ads don't necessarily name that, but he's standing on busting corruption and fraud. And he is reminding people that he led the charge on ending that and getting people convicted for Dallas County schools. So, Trump versus Abbott. That's what this race is all about.
And we'll see who wins.
Yes.
We'll see who wins because and usually Abbott and Governor Abbott and President Trump are not
the same
opposite. Yeah,
yes.
Opposite teams, but Abbott actually because he did appoint Hancock to this position, you would definitely imagine
expect
that he would
him
try
to.
Yeah.
Yes.
But President Trump has weighed in late. So what has gone on to make him weigh in on this? We'll see.
Well, and Ted Cruz has also come out to endorse Huff Hines as well. He's in his commercials.
Because you know what, Huff Hines has been around a long time.
Yes, he has.
And he has. Remember, politics is all about relationships.
Yes.
And Huff Hines has relationships, which is obvious because of the endorsements. But keep in mind also, endorsements don't always have an effect.
Translate into votes. That is true. So, and he has run for other offices as well and hasn't been successful since leaving the state senate seat that he had. So,
well, he's if you believe in polls, and some do, especially that's a lot of times that's how we gauge races. Then Huff Hines is ahead.
Really?
Last I looked, which was yesterday before I came on here.
Wow.
Huff Hines is polling ahead.
Name recognition?
Possibly.
And also...
and then remember, this is a Republican primary.
Yes.
And he has, well, both of them actually. All of them really. With Democratic as well. But as of the last poll, he was polling ahead.
That's very interesting. Yeah. I did see one of my troublemakers I had on the show. She said anybody but Huff Hines.
Well, she better drumming up her to support against Huff Hines.
This is going to be an interesting race. I'm definitely going to keep my eye on it. I really, since I'm won't be voting in the Republican primary, although I am tempted to, and I'll explain that later. I don't have a dog in this fight for the Republicans. We know Huff Hines. We've seen him in action. We know what he is about. Hancock, I can't say that I know a lot about him until recently with him being appointed into this position by Abbott. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top. And then,
most definitely.
Yes, and who Sarah Eckhart will be up against in November. So,
but I want to say again.
Yes.
To watch this race. I'm not saying because if you're not a Republican and you're not inclined to vote in the Republican primary.
Yes.
But still keep an eye on the race.
Yes.
Of that position.
Yes, because again, it's the money position here in the state of Texas. So we want to make sure that we have someone who is going to be guarding our revenue, okay, and making sure that cronies are not getting contracts just because they want them.
I don't know how you're going to stop that, but anyway, that's another discussion. That's another discussion.
So, you want to jump into 24? Congressional District 24?
Well, you know what? That's an interesting. Yes, let's go ahead and do that one because it's very interesting because Van Dyne, that particular race, which is, go ahead and give it.
Yeah, so for the Republican side, it is incumbent Beth Van Dyne, who is the current congressional leader for this seat. And this seat was part of the redistricting that happened here when Trump asked Abbott to find more seats for him. So it stretches all the way to East Texas. It cut into Julie Johnson's seat as well, which caused her to then run for another congressional seat instead of trying to run for Congressional District 24. So on the Democrat side, We have John Buckwald, Kevin Burge, Timothy Ware, Nathan Hawks, and Aaron Hindley. So John Buckwald has and Kevin Burge are pretty much tied as far as cash that they have raised for this race. Not a whole lot of buzz has been happening with this race, which I thought was very interesting, seeing that she's being challenged.
Well, not necessarily, because she's the favorite.
Yes,
and not only just favored, she is a sitting congresswoman.
Yes,
she raises a lot of money. And
yes, because she has over
one
$1
thing
million.
about Berna Dean,
Yes,
you remember she was city council. She was a mayor as well. But you know what? Throughout the time that she's been, she has been very, very, very reactive and receptive to her constituents. Now they did this. This had more. Actually, it was more of Judy Johnson's district.
Yes, it was.
However, the way that they cut it up, that it ended up being a favored Berna Dean.
Yes.
And and quite often, a lot of times, you don't hear a lot of buzz when the media or whoever would put the buzz out there just think it's non-competitive. And with Berna Dean, it's just not viewed as a competitive race.
But that is unfortunate. I'm hoping that the candidates on the Democrat side are out there knocking on those doors from Dallas to East Texas, which it's a very long district, and has put people together in a district that you would say are kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum, if you would think politically. But when I did the show on Caddo Lake and the potential for gentrification there in East Texas, a lot of rural concerns that residents and people that live in those types of communities have are still concerns that you will find with people in urban cores.
You know what? You might see more concentration on this race once we get into the general, because you will have your Democrat as well as your Republican, and which will be Berna Dean. But keep this also in mind with this huge turnout.
Yes.
Especially with the Democratic turnout.
Yes.
Then those types of races could become more competitive if you see more of an increase in Democratic voting in that area. Now, here's another thing too.
The Senate, with you making that point, the Senate race for the Democrats, depending on who ends up being the nominee, you could see a lot of down ballot impact.
You could. However, once the Democrats, those who are racing and those who are getting out the vote, must ensure that this high turnout continues.
And
because it could just be the primary. Now, I've been out there in the going to the polls, and I would be surprised if this high interest doesn't carry on into the general. I would be very surprised.
Okay.
Because what I'm hearing is a number of the voters, and you do have some crossover in terms of Republicans Democrat, because they want to change.
Yes.
And here's something else interesting. Now, wait a minute. We're not on the Senate race yet. So
no, we're not on the Senate race. Okay, yes, I know. It's so tempting.
We're talking about high turnout.
Yes.
Which is phenomenal, to be honest with you, because we've never seen this type of engagement before.
For a primary. Which is great. But again, it must not wane. The interest cannot wane for Democrats with the primary. So everyone who is turning out, you have, as the kids would say, keep that same energy going into the general election in November.
Yes.
So you should see a lot of campaigning happening starting the summer.
Well, and also election day isn't until Tuesday, and you have this high of a turnout.
Yes.
But here's another caution, that those who turned out for early aren't just those voters who vote during election day and they're just early. because, but even if it is, the Republican Party, because of its turnout early, they have a lot of catching up to do in Dallas County.
That's true. But for them, it's a primary. Is it really, do they feel that it is as important?
Well, I would think so, because look at your candidates for, we're going to go back to the city race. See, look at your, we even talked about the Comptroller.
Yes.
They have choices.
They do.
So their races are competitive. Now, are they interested in these candidates? Does it matter who wins? Not only will we see on election day if they do come out.
Right.
That's when we'll see,
Right.
because as of now, and we're talking about Dallas County, Tarrant County, the turnout is focused on up until early voting on Democrats, the Democratic Party, because it has been so high.
Yes.
So we'll wait and see on election day and see the turnout.
Yes.
Republican turnout.
So you're expecting to see a surge for the Republicans on election day?
Republicans are expecting to see a surge.
Okay.
The Republicans are, because typically more Republicans do vote on election day.
That's true.
But as I said earlier, with such a huge turnout among Democrats, then to even hardly match this turnout, they've got to have a huge surge.
They do have to have a huge surge.
Even statewide.
Yes.
Statewide.
Yes.
So it's an interesting race. Yeah, the race is an interesting election cycle. Interesting election.
Yes. I want to jump into your sister's race.
Well, you know what? Keep in mind, let's not. Only because I'm, you know that I'm not objective, and I wouldn't look at that race from a analyst perspective, because
I'll play devil's advocate.
Okay, play devil's advocate.
So, Congressional District 30, we have Jasmine Crockett, who is the current congressperson for Congressional District 30, has her pastor, Frederick Douglass Haynes III, who is running in her place as she runs for U.S. Senate. And we have the well-known Barbara Caraway, who is running for this seat. So just some history about Barbara that some of you guys may not know. So she was state rep for House District 110, okay? That is now held by Tony Rhodes. She was in that seat from 2007 to 2013, okay? And she was on the Dallas City Council from 1993 to 2001. So she has a very long history with understanding the legislative process. And we have Haynes here, who has been a huge champion for civil rights. His church, Friendship West, on 20 with the Black Lives Matter banner, and was very involved during the time, during the pandemic, George Floyd, all of the protesting that was going on during that time. So I know a lot of people have been very excited because of him being in the race and bringing that legacy of his activism for this seat. So,
as I said,
be biased.
Okay, quickly. I'll quickly jump into this race right now, because I think that I'm going to say one statement, and I'm not basing this on sisterhood.
Okay.
I'm basing this on what I am actually seeing on the ground.
Okay.
That it is competitive, because you do have to have two names that are very, very recognizable. I'll even give an example. When we were at the polls, and this guy told me, so you know what? I've been seeing her forever.
Right.
So she has name recognition as well. But since your audience know that I'm not going to be objective, that I am pro Barbara Mallory Caraway, that Barbara Mallory Caraway is going to win.
Okay. There you have it.
She's going to win.
Berna Dean Steptoe has claimed it. So just knowing his history and legacy online, I saw a lot of buzz when he put his name in the hat. And when I started talking to people, because, following day, he filed the Friday before the deadline, and I expected to see a big mounting of his campaign. And then it was kind of like once the following deadline came and went, it was just flat. And now I see paid advertisements. I have seen him going to endorsement interviews, and that was a bit surprising for me.
You're just determined, aren't you?
Well, no, yes, I am.
She's determined.
I am.
But I think that there was they underestimated her. I think that some were surprised that she actually was able to get in it because of the time, the window to file, because she was not going to run against Jasmine Crockett.
Of course,
you're just not.
Yes.
Who's
right.
going to be Jasmine Crockett in District 30?
Right.
And Congresswoman Crockett did announce that she was not going to run until 4:30, and on the day of the deadline.
Yes.
But Barbara Mallory Caraway was ready. So as soon as she, Congresswoman Crockett announced, Barbara filed, and I think that it was a surprise. And as everybody knows, Barbara has been running in that seat.
Yes.
So here's the question I always said: why wouldn't she run in an open seat? This is the first time, because when it became open, when Congresswoman
EBJ stepped down. Yes.
It wasn't really open because Congresswoman Johnson was still in it and she endorsed.
Yes, she did.
So why wouldn't Barbara Mallory Caraway win and run? And also, you know what? As we said, that with all due respect to Pastor Haynes, all due respect for his work, his entrance did cause Congressman Beasy to drop out.
Yes.
But not Barbara Mallory Caraway.
Yes.
And
it's so interesting because I ran for city council that year, and literally after that election was done, I saw an ad for Jasmine Crockett with poll results stating that she could take the U.S. Senate seat. I started calling some of my buddies, and I'm like, she's running. No, she's not. No, she's not. And I'm like, she did not put that out there without the intent. So if you weren't paying attention, you were asleep. You weren't keeping up with what was going on. She was giving out the clues that she was going to run for Senate. So I knew she was going to run just from knowing Jasmine before she ran for House District 100, before she made it official, because she didn't run in the special election. She ran in the general, the primary for the seat. I knew she was going to run. So
and you were one of the few. I mean, you did say that.
Yeah.
And a great number of us just didn't buy it, because if you no, here was the question.
Yes.
Very, very popular in that seat. In District 30.
Yes.
Very powerful in that seat.
Yes.
So why did you give up after that term? So we just didn't buy what you were saying. What does old people say? We were not buying the Kool-Aid. But no, and you were right, and you were one of the few. If the only.
Yes. I knew it.
Yes, you were.
I saw Kevin Felder, and he actually said that she was going to run as well. And I went, oh, then it's official.
But, well, that's true, but I'm talking about so far back.
Yeah.
You know, back,
yes.
when you start saying it.
Oh, yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Now, once she started giving that I'm going to announce at a certain date, then yeah.
Yes.
But one thing Barbara was very cautious about, because you know, Congresswoman Crockett is very effective in her district.
Yes, she is.
The appearance that she was going to challenge her or whatever, although I'm not going to say she wouldn't, but she has officially said she would not have challenged.
Well, and most people felt that way with
Yeah.
they weren't going to jump in the race against Congresswoman Crockett if she had continued to run for 30 instead of jumping into the U.S. Senate.
But keep in mind, in politics, there is nothing that is definite, and
That's
that's why
true.
Barbara Mallory Caraway was ready, so that when she did announce, she could, because you had to file in Austin,
Okay, yes.
so you couldn't
yes.
file in Dallas County,
Okay,
so you had to file in Austin, and she was ready. So
there you have it. I'm surprised more people didn't get in the race, seeing that it's an open seat now for this election. I'm calling it open. But I think the thought was because of his name and being the pastor of Friendship West and just his activism legacy that people just said it's a shoe-in.
well,
It was going to be a cakewalk for him.
what do you say about politics? There's nothing.
Nothing
that's
is certain.
And I also will say this because I've been in politics and I've covered the politicians so long, is that it's left up to that candidate.
Yes, it
If
is.
that candidate thinks that he or she can win, even if the thinking is, okay, if I don't win this time, but you never give it up.
Yes.
You never give it up, and then you jump in.
Right.
Now you might not be able to raise the money.
Of course.
You might not be able to
garner the attention that you would like.
but you don't not run because somebody else is running.
That is true.
And in politics again, timing is crucial.
It is.
Timing is crucial.
Because Barbara ran against EBJ when Hassani Burton, Shanita Cleveland, all of those guys were getting in there. Brandon Vance, he wanted to run and challenge EBJ. So your sister does have a long legacy with being out there and challenging for this seat. So it was not surprising to me when I saw her name as filing for this race.
And I must say this too, because this is her belief as well. Only by the grace of God. Only by the grace of God, she's going to be victorious.
Okay.
Because you all heard it here. So on at 7 o'clock on March the 3rd,
start watching the votes being counted
and watch that race. Everybody's going to be watching the city race.
Yes, of course they are.
That race.
Yes, so watch Congressional District 30. Sheldon Daniels on the Republican side. He's the top contender for this seat as well. So I'm assuming that he is going to be the primary winner for the GOP for 30. He does have other challengers. I have seen him on TikTok, and I've seen his signs very early on with running for this seat. He did not care about challenging Congresswoman Crockett.
Yeah. Well, and also, even his competitors are saying that he probably will get.
Yes. All right, so let's hop over to let's talk about governor, because there's quite a few people in the race for both parties. Of course, we have Greg Abbott, our governor incumbent, who on the Republican side, hands down, I think everybody would agree that he is going to take the nomination in March, although he does have quite a few challengers. There is a very long list. I won't go into that just because it just seems logical that he's going to win.
Well, he's going to,
Don't
we
sound so
don't even have to discuss that because I don't know of anybody who thinks that Governor Abbott is not going to be the Republican nominee for governor.
Yes. All right. So on the Democrat side, we have notable names. Chris Bell. He used to be the House Rep for District 25. In 2006, he ran for governor. He was a candidate against Rick Perry. And he was in Congress one term in 2002. Gina Hinojosa is the biggest name that I text messages, seen her signs. She's a civil rights attorney. She is the current representative for House District 49 in the state legislature, and she's on the Business and Industry Committee. So it's going to be interesting to see who takes that. I think she has the bigger name recognition.
Well, there's going to be a runoff.
You think so?
Oh, how many candidates
well,
do you have?
Okay, so Patricia Arbrighetto, Bobby Cole, Carlton Hart, Jose Navarro Balbuena, Zale Vance, Angela Baez, and Andrew White, which is another name that we've seen before.
Andrew, yeah. So, inevitably, because you have Andrew White, you have Chris Bell, you have Hinojosa. So not one candidate is going to take 50% of that vote.
You don't think?
No.
Oh, that's going to be interesting because I'm figuring that Hinojosa will.
Well, she is the most popular name now.
Yeah.
But Chris Bell, I'm hearing
that's
his
true.
name.
That is true.
I'm hearing Chris Bell's name. I'm hearing Hinojosa by far, and she has most of the state officials, or as I say, endorsements are good, but not necessarily what puts you over.
Right.
And I'd be surprised if it isn't a runoff.
Okay.
Because see, remember that's a statewide. And each candidate, because she's going to carry a large segment of this vote. Chris Bell is, and then as Andrew. So yeah, I'd be very surprised, and I don't mind being surprised.
That's
true. I think that it's going to be a runoff.
Okay. Well, Attorney General. So, on the Democrats, we have Nathan Johnson, who is a state senator. He works for Thompson Colburn as a litigator and a mediator. We have Tony Box, who has a long resume. He's an Army vet. He's a judge advocate for general officer in Iraq, has been part of the Department of Defense with the SWAT team and FBI, and assistant U.S. attorney. And then there's Joe Jaworski, who ran in 2022, and he's a private practice attorney. So once I started digging into Tony Box, I hate that he is not a well-known name based on his experience and the positions that he's had. I hope he does not give up running again in 4 years for Attorney General. I just think that it's just not enough publicity and knowing about him. And he was here for Monday Night Politics with Nathan Johnson. Joe Jaworski wasn't there. But I would have liked to have seen more about Tony Box.
Well, you just said it.
But so Joe Jaworski is you would.
Yeah, obviously. Well, I know Nathan Johnson, and yes. I know him from being on the Senate.
Yes.
And
yes, he's been on Inside Texas Politics. Yes.
Forever.
Yes.
So I think that's a runoff as well.
Okay.
So, and I think that
between he and Jaworski.
Or
Box.
Well, you just said Box. You wish there were more chatter about him, but
yes.
Probably Jaworski. But Nathan Johnson is definitely going to be in it.
Yes, definitely.
And you know what? If you remember, his last election was a tough race.
It was.
Yeah,
it was. But on the Republican side, so we have Chip Roy and Mays Middleton. We also have Aaron Ruiz and Joan Huffman. And I may have pronounced the name wrong there. I apologize. Chip Roy, he's a state house rep, been there since 2019. He was the first assistant AG of Texas. He's been a chief of staff for Ted Cruz, staff director to John Cornyn. A lot of buzz around him. Middleton, he is a senator of District 11 in the state legislature, and well known as having his oil and gas company, Middleton Oil Company. He was also appointed by Trump to the DOJ to serve under Pam Bondi. So,
You know what is now? We've said all these races are basically, but Middleton is closing the gap on Chip Roy. See,
really,
when Chip Roy first started running, he was double digits ahead of Middleton.
yes.
But Middleton has made run so many negative ads against Chip Roy that that he's
And that is politics, yes.
It's politics.
And knowing how, okay, so back to Huffines and Hancock, knowing that Middleton has been appointed by Trump and has that lineage and support, and Roy being called a rhino, being looked at unfavorably. Unfortunately, it seems as a Republican, if you have any modicum of common sense,
Well,
you become unpopular.
I definitely, and that is where Chip Roy has sort of angered some of the Make America Great Again people.
Okay.
So that because he did vote against some certain legislation, but it's interesting that he would have even been on top. And I think that that's what you're seeing, that in the district that he represented that they respected what he's going to do. Now he is having a tough race,
Yes.
but
Thinking runoff between Middleton and Roy? No.
no, but as I said, Middleton is closing that gap.
So I guess we'll find out on Tuesday.
So we'll find out. I'm not saying that with such conviction that there won't be, but Chip Roy might just actually pull it off.
Pull it off. Okay. So then we'll see who meets the November fight for both when it comes to Attorney General.
Yeah.
Real quickly, Congressional District 33, Colin Allred, Julie Johnson, Zihan, let me get my glasses, I don't know why I'm trying to, Hafiz, and Carlos Cantanilla, my old buddy there. So, yeah. Colin got dragged when it came to Taroko and Jasmine Crockett and feeling some kind of way, I'll just say, when it came to being called mediocre with his campaign or being a mediocre candidate or being a mediocre congressman. That seems to have really impacted him in this race. I see a lot more support, especially with local politicians that have come out and endorsed Julie Johnson in this race.
I'm seeing the opposite.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm seeing that Colin Allred got more of a benefit out of it. Because number one, initially we were hearing, God, why race again?
Right.
And that he did actually run a mediocre campaign. And not many people, unless you're pushing the narrative for Congresswoman Crockett, that they don't believe he actually, that Telewiga actually said it.
Right.
But they do, in a sense, admire the way that Colin Allred came out and was so forceful. And keep in mind, too,
I think, too, that was the first time that anyone has seen real passion or feelings from him. So I think that played into his favor because, once again, kind of middle of the road. I said, as a congressman, it very lackluster. He wasn't in the media, wasn't known for really standing up for anything in particular, wasn't, this shining star as, a freshman, and wasn't making a lot of waves when he was in Congress.
Well, and when he ran against Ted Cruz, Senator
Yes.
Ted Cruz, I mean, he ran an independent campaign.
Yes.
He ran as if he was running to be the nominee for an independent party. So he did not run a good campaign until towards the end he realized, I'm not getting any traction. And he tried to switch that. This summer, I saw him when he was running for Senate. Mm-hmm. And I was so surprised at that passion. So he started the passion before that episode. Matter of fact, I went up to him and I said, why we didn't see this candidate
before?
And his response was, well, that was sort of private, but my deal is he realized how he was campaigning. Now, I think he did get a bump because I was hearing more of a positive about
more chatter. Yes.
Positive chatter.
Okay.
And it put him on the more on the radar. However, well, I was reading this morning that a poll just came out that put him ahead. Really? Yeah, and I wish I had.
Oh my God!
But anyway, that's going to be. Keep in mind, it's going to boil down to turnout.
It is.
It's going to boil down to whether or not he gets his people to the polls, or whether or not
Julie or Zehan,
Congresswoman Julie Johnson gets hers. And I'm going to say this quickly, and then I'll move on. When she ran to replace him in that seat, I saw a campaign that was almost unmatched. So she's an excellent campaigner.
Yes, she is.
She has excellent support. So that's going to be down to the wire. And it's going to determine who gets their people to the polls.
Yes.
And so I would call that race for anything.
All right. So on the Republican side, we have Monty Mark Mitchell, Peyton Jackson, John David Sams. I really don't. Yeah. So we'll keep an eye out. The buzz just has been there on the Republican side for this seat, and I know with redistricting, the Republicans I think thought that this seat was guaranteed theirs by making it primarily Latino, and Latinos are known for voting Republican. So I think it's really going to be a turn to see in November 433. So now moving on to the race that everybody wants to know about, Senate race, Tellerico versus Congresswoman Crockett and Kim Paxton, John Cornyn for the Republicans. So,
go ahead.
I thought about voting in the Republican primary because I would rather have a sensible Republican than a MAGA, and I would be Team Cornyn. And you can crucify me, hang me, drag me, whatever. Not a fan of Kim Paxton, all because the securities fraud charges. And if he knew he could beat him, he should have just went ahead and went to court and just showed out.
So you say that you thought about voting. So did you change your mind, or did you what?
I haven't voted yet. So Tuesday I will make my determining factor, but more than likely I'll be voting in the Democratic primary. I'm a Democrat precinct chair, but I have been vocal about switching because people do it to try and give a nudge to someone on the other team. And it's not so much to make it a better match against a Democrat to make them win. It's just that when Kim Paxton ran for Attorney General again, and I can't remember the young lady who ran against him, I thought about voting then because I wanted her to be the nominee.
Well, that is the wish that the Democratic Party wants, is that they could run against Kim Paxton. Because they see him as the most likely candidate to beat.
Okay.
But one thing about this senatorial race, it is very, very competitive on both sides.
Yes, it is.
Because a number of these races we've talked about is one way or the other. But this one, both are competitive, and so it's like a help me with the sports analogy. Is it like? Is it more that they're gonna duke it out, and then they'll get into the ring together?
Yes.
But how can you be in America actually, but especially in the state of Texas, not be watching that race? And
I know
the thinking is that that's what's determining this high turnout, the senatorial race.
Yes.
And on both sides.
On both sides, yes.
As we said earlier, that you don't have the Republicans are not matching Democrats in terms of turnout. We'll wait and see what happens on election day, but it's still very competitive.
Yes, it is.
And whoever wins and on the Republican side will go up against who wins on the Democratic side. And to be honest with you, that's a race I wouldn't call either. I would not call that race because, especially in North Texas and over in Tarrant County. Well, Houston, yes. You know, the turnout is so huge.
Okay.
That you can. Some people are saying our Congresswoman. Some people are saying that is Tellerico. However, when you go further out, when you get out of Dallas and
the urban core,
then
yeah.
he's doing as well, and then Travis County. That's where his seat is. That's
yes.
So
because he flipped that seat,
and because I am in the Dallas Fort Worth area, I can see the hard work that Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is doing, and it appears to be paying off. But I do see, because as I told you, the last month or so, I've been actively involved on the ground.
Yes,
and the people are passionately going to the polls in this area for Jasmine Crockett, but he has some too.
Yes, and this is my thing with Congresswoman Crockett, because I got the phone call when she was still our house rep in the state legislature, and she was going to be running for 30. And I just said, we just got you down in Austin. Can you sit for a minute? And okay, Jasmine's going to do what Jasmine's going to do if you know her. So when I saw the polls, I was like, okay, she's going to run for Senate. And so quite a few people, it's been talked about, her trajectory. And she's in her second term in Congress. It's like, why are you running for U.S. Senate when you're still relatively new as a congressperson? And I guess she went viral with her alliteration against Marguerite Taylor Greene. And we've had this conversation that, strike while the iron is hot. But I would have liked for her to have been in Congress District 30 longer.
You know what? I get that.
Into it. Yeah.
I get that, but now her popularity is at its height. You don't know where it's going to be in 2 more years. You don't know. I keep saying this in politics. Timing is crucial. So if she actually, and I think it has something else to do with her inability to sort of move up a little bit in DC.
Yes.
But if you're running and you want to move to another seat, or you want to move up, or no, rarely someone wants to move down.
True.
But if you have to strike, you have to move with the timing. And as of now, remember, politics doesn't necessarily last a year, 2 months, 3 months.
Yes.
Your popularity, or where you, even if it's not popular, it might not last. But as popular as she is now, and I was her consultant, and she was wanting to run for Senate because you could only go up, and that's the next. That's the next. Right. I tell her yes, because she is not guaranteed to be this popular the next seat becomes available. She's just not.
That is true. I mean, she's done a great job with marketing herself and being on MSNBC and CNN and getting that popularity kind of nationwide. She, helped with VP Harris' presidential campaign, and the Honorable Kamala Harris is supporting her with her bid for U.S. Senate. So I totally understand, strike while the iron is hot with your popularity, but there just seems to have been a trend. And some people are pointing out just the short tenure in her previous role with House Rep 100, and now being Congresswoman of 30, and she's in her second term, and then she decides to run for U.S. Senate.
And perhaps that's what her opponent will whatever, but you just cannot wait. if you actually don't want to be in that seat,
right,
and if you actually have come to a conclusion that I'm done, you strike. Because
I get
it's
it.
not.
Yeah.
Because it's not. I mean that you could be 100% approval rating at today, and you could be 33 tomorrow.
Yes.
So so if I'm going to move when I'm 100%. I'm not going to wait and see. Okay, well maybe I need to do this. Maybe it's just not politics.
I totally get it. And one of the pluses with her is that she's always been so fiery and has been able to bring people to the polls that typically may vote when it comes to the presidential time, but not necessarily vote in the other elections. So she does have that ability to bring out your non-traditional voters to show up and vote. And that could be part of the
she has a very, it is competitive now. So
yes.
He does too.
Yes.
That's why I say you just have to wait until on election day to see whose people get to the polls and in what large numbers.
Do we think that it could potentially be a runoff between the two of them?
Oh, no. No.
So it's going to be no runoff for the Democrats or either one. No runoff. So it's going to be a clear winner between.
I think so. Okay, now we're talking, no. There's going to be a runoff in the Republican senatorial race. There's going to be a runoff.
Oh, Wesley Hunt.
Yeah, see, there won't be one in Democrat because the Democrats are not divided they're only divided between those two top. They don't have a third one that they're even thinking about. That person doesn't even.
No.
I've been on the polls, as I said, ever since early voting started. I've never heard the only two names I've ever heard.
Okay. So Wesley Hunt throws a wrench in the game for Paxton and Cornyn. So he's going to be pulling.
Unless either Cornyn or Paxton can pull that out. And with this in mind, neither has actually hit close to 50%. Yeah. Now, neither has, other than one poll that put Congresswoman 50 or above, but consistently on an average, neither has actually, but you've had double digits undecided.
Right.
So they can go either way.
Depending on the day, I couldn't tell you who I predict is going to pull it off. No. I think both are just way too competitive at this point, and it's going to be down to the wire on who team shows up in the greatest numbers, and that's even for the Republicans.
And both, either side, their supporters are passionate.
They are.
They're going to the polls.
They are.
They're going to vote for their person.
They are.
And I just wouldn't actually, as I say, if you're up here, if you're up in North Texas, even Tarrant County, hands down, Congresswoman.
Yes.
But when you get outside, it's questionable.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And remember, Beto, how much time do we have?
We are wrapping up here.
Okay, but we won't get into that race then because he was winning until you went down into those rural areas, and he couldn't go anywhere. So you just have to wait and see on election day.
Okay, so there you have it. Too close to call on who's going to pull it off for the U.S. Senate seat. So thank you, my love, for coming on. It's a hot season for this March primary.
And I know, and I miss doing this. Well, I was on a podcast last week. But on Inside Texas Politics, every Sunday morning I was talking.
Yes, you were. Yes,
you were. And I will after the election, not permanently, but I will be appearing. But I just thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's always an open door. You can always come back anytime.
Well, because of you, that's you, and I was on the other podcast. The reason I'm here is because of you, because I haven't been taken off the campaign trail.
I know.
Do stuff like this.
And I want to get you back out there. So again, we are going to be down to the wire. So tune in Tuesday night and let's see who is going to take some of these races. All right, so thank you so much for
And thank you.
coming out. So, guys, I can't remember my show for next week. I've been so focused on this and what's going to happen in the primary. So, I'll make another promo video for you guys to see what's the topic. Make sure